Troy Aikman, one of the best quarterbacks of his generation and one of the best broadcasters of his generation. He's with Monday Night Football. The Niners and the Jets play in just a few days. What's going on, man?
How are you?
I'm fired up, man. We finally have real football to talk about. Like, we keep doing these episodes, and I was like, well, if this goes right, or whoa, training camp preview, and now it's like it's finally here. We're taking this 2 days away from actual football. Do you get butterflies this time of year? Just the excitement of the sport and actually having something tangible to look at, Troy?
I'm not butterflies, but I do get excited about the season. I always did as a player, and I still do as a broadcaster. As long as I've been doing that, it's it's a long off season. It's a good off season to kind of re-energize, and then the season rolls around, and once Labor Day hits with the college season, kind of gets you going, and knowing that the NFL season's a week away. So here we are.
Quick non-football. Best thing you did this off season?
I went to the south of France with my daughters.
Whoa!
Yeah,
there you go.
They're both. Well, my oldest just graduated in May, and then my youngest graduates next year. But that time for those parents that are parents of older kids, they understand it. The parents of younger kids, they'll soon understand it. That as they get older, you get less time with them. So I cherish that time that I had with them this summer.
I have a 19-month-old, and I'm cherishing it quite a bit right now.
Yeah, you'll wake up tomorrow, they'll be graduating from college.
I don't even want to think about it. Yeah. All right, let's get into football. So fascinating quarterback matchup you guys got on your hands in just a couple of days, Purdy versus Rodgers. I want to talk a little bit about like modern quarterback play and where this is going, because I think you have two pretty different but interesting examples of how the game has changed, certainly since you played. And I want to start with Purdy. You hear so much about Kyle Shanahan and how he makes life easy for quarterbacks. What does that mean to you, especially as it relates to Brock Purdy?
Oh, I think the scheme that they have is very quarterback friendly. There are other offenses in the league that are that way. I played in one, back when I played for North Turner. But I think when you look at what Kyle Shanahan's been able to do with regardless of who's playing quarterback, the success that quarterback has had, he's got first of all, it's one thing to have the plays, and you can have all the different looks, the running plays, and marrying it up with your play action game, and then the drop back passing. But there is a skill and a talent in knowing when to call those plays and how to set those things up. And I think Kyle, really the Shanahan lineage, if you will, whether it's Mike Shanahan, of course, was one of the best to have ever done it. Kyle, Matt LaFleur, Kevin O'Connell, that list of offensive minds that have come from that tree have all done a remarkable job, and it's been fun to watch. And the quarterbacks are the ones who have benefited, and Purdy right now has.
With Purdy in particular, I mean, there's all sorts of different sides of the debate. To me, he's really good at something that maybe Jimmy Garoppolo and some of those other guys weren't, which is firing it right into some of those really open throws that the offense kind of gives you. Where do you fall on the Purdy debate? Because it's gotten a little bit toxic, but I think that there's room for a lot of nuance there.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Brock Purdy's. And if he had been a first-round pick, we'd all be talking about what an amazing player he is. But because he was the last player taken in the 7th round, he's had an uphill climb in terms of being appreciated for his abilities as opposed to just being a product of the offense. I've always believed that, I think a lot of people get enamored with arm strength. Can this guy run? Can he do all these things athletically? But ultimately, you have to be able to make good decisions, and you have to throw the ball straight. And Brock Purdy is a great example of that. That for the most part, he makes really good decisions. He's accurate with the football. And then he leaves it up to the playmakers to create separation and get themselves open, and then he delivers the football. So I think he's playing the position at a really high level. I don't care where he was drafted. I don't care what people say about him. I think he's a terrific player.
All right, interesting. All right, so I'm curious. I watched a lot of your interviews in the few days leading up to this, and saw you talk about certain things, whether that's developing a catchable ball and sort of sacrificing stats to win and all that stuff. And I saw a very interesting clip with Joe Burrow earlier this summer, Troy, where Joe talked about how he thinks that the key to the NFL quarterbacking is learning how to win. And he thinks that maybe some of the reason that a Patrick Mahomes and a Josh Allen from smaller schools are better at winning is because they had to put the team on their back when they were in college. You started out in the NFL, I think on an 11-game losing streak, not to bring up bad memories, but you certainly recovered. I'm
That's
curious
a
what the
fact.
process, I'm curious what the process is of learning how to win at the NFL level as a quarterback. Like, what is that? I think everybody thinks that wins are a product of stats or, just hitting the open guy, or whatever, but winning is a skill. And I'm curious how you develop it.
Well, I think a lot of it comes down to coaching, as far as teaching a young player, and I think it has to start at a young age. Teaching a young quarterback how to play the position, and I do think a lot of quarterbacks. This isn't just the current group. It goes back to when I was playing as well. That you play the position differently if you're down 2 scores, as opposed to if you've got a 3-point lead. And then there's more that even goes into that as to how's your defense playing? Are they giving up points? Do you have to be more aggressive? If you're up 6 points and a field goal means the difference in a 1-score game and a 2-score game, then how you play that series, once you get into field goal range and the risk you're willing to take, it all has to factor into this. And so I think there are quarterbacks who certainly understand that. And when you watch them, you can tell that they do, and they go on and they win a lot of football games. And then there's others who it really doesn't matter what the circumstances are in the game. They're playing the same way, and they're not very risk averse, and you find yourselves getting into a lot of trouble. So I think that's a big part of it. I don't know that quarterbacks in general over the years have been trained in that regard. I was fortunate to have played for a guy at UCLA and Homer Smith that made that really important each and every day. We went over situations and what you were thinking as a quarterback. But there are those guys like Patrick Mahomes. He has a great feel for that, of course. Heck, I think Joe Burrow does.
Yeah.
And you talk about the different kinds of quarterbacks and the current guys versus the modern day quarterback versus the older quarterbacks, and what's the difference. I view Joe Burrow as an old school quarterback. He could, all these guys could have played in my era, but he was more along the lines of the guys that played when I was playing. And he's not overly mobile. He relies on being able to really dissect the defense and hang in the pocket, read the defense, get the ball to the people that are open, and he does a great job of it. So I'm a huge fan of Joe Burrow's.
Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? 2 words: Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the types of benefits only Caesars can offer. Hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire.
All right. So, we talk a lot about how much the game has changed. We had Steve Young on the show a couple months ago, and he's basically saying, like, God, he wishes he could get out there now because this would have been his era. Like, it's so much of what he does, what he did is now obviously all over the NFL. I'm curious if you could have one thing that quarterbacks, an advantage that quarterbacks have now that you didn't have in 1994, 1995, 1996, what would it be? Would it be open middle of the field? Would it be some of these rule changes? If you could just say, darn, if I could just have had this, I would have gotten X amount better.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to like as far as what it means for the production of a quarterback currently. But for me, I would probably say the protection on the quarterback. I think, certainly my career, I played 12 years. I would have played much longer. And I think that the norm going forward is going to be, we're going to see quarterbacks playing up until they're 40 years old and beyond. Yeah. I think if anyone retires before they're 40, it's going to be a little bit surprising. One, because of the salaries, but then also the quarterbacks just aren't taking the punishment that we took back when I played. But Steve's right. I mean, the game's changed so much in terms of the spread offenses, the quarterbacks that are throwing the football. Teams are now looking for guys like Steve. When Steve came into the league, they were wanting to make him a pocket passer.
Yeah,
and he obviously did that. He was an MVP, Hall of Fame quarterback. But if he came into the league today, they would be embracing all of that and saying, "Oh, do your thing," and he wouldn't have had to have adjusted as much as he did.
That's obviously fascinating. All right, so there's a couple of things about Aaron Rodgers, the other quarterback. They're interesting to me. I think we talk about training. Like he's the last of these guys, and he'll play. He's obviously 40 now, but he's the last of these guys who came in before the 2011 CBA, got an incredible football education with two-a-days and all of that stuff, and then in the second half of their career, they get so much protection. They don't have to practice as much. It's a fascinating night and day change from the beginning of their career to the end. He's obviously coming to the end of it, but he's obviously a very gifted passer, very gifted football thinker. He has how much left in the tank, Troy?
Oh, I think he could play at a level that could win games still for another few years. I don't know if we're going to see that out of him. I know from my conversations with Aaron over the years, quite honestly, I didn't expect to see Aaron playing at 40 years old. I thought he would have walked away from the game before then, and I think he even thought that he would have back years ago. But that's kind of true for a lot of us. When we start to try to project, we don't see ourselves playing, and then it's just hard to walk away from. But he because ultimately, he was one of the guys who certainly has mobility. You lose that as you get older. That's the thing that happened with me. But yet, because of his intelligence and he still has great arm strength and all that he could play. So, the modern quarterback, as far as being able to avoid the pass rush and like Patrick Mahomes, create and extend plays. Everybody would like to have that guy, but if Tom Brady and Peyton Manning came back and they were able to play, if they were in their 30s or what have you, there would be a position for them, of course, because of their ability to throw the football. So I don't know that the pocket passer is ever going to be extinct. I do believe that guy is always going to have a place to play. You just got to then provide better things around them. And for the Jets, this year, they've done that with the offensive line. So for a guy who's 40 years old, who probably doesn't move as well as he once did, they've addressed that. And now they let him go do what he does best, and that's throw the football to the open people.
It's interesting because, and I'll just make this one quick, but one of the things with these new kids who are 22, 23, they hold on to the ball forever because there's no punishment on the other side of it. Because you see like Caleb Williams holding on back there. I saw with Cam Ward, obviously, over the weekend with Miami, we're like, these guys will sit back there for 6 and 7 seconds because in your generation, Troy, if you did that, there's probably some concrete under the artificial turf and you'd be driven into it. It's not like that anymore. So that's changed as well, too.
No, you're right. No, you're absolutely right. And I've seen it. I've seen it at the collegiate level. I've seen it at the NFL level. You get a false sense of security back there in the pocket, knowing that you're not going to get hit. You hang on to the ball a little bit more. And anytime a quarterback does get hit, I see them and they're immediately looking for a flag as to, I should put together a highlight reel of the worst hits that I took. And you would think that these players would probably have been banned from the NFL and there was not even a penalty on the play. So it's changed a lot for sure.
All right, quick hitters. We do something called badasses. Basically, the way I describe it is alien comes down, says, take me to a football player that you played with. Who would you take him to? Who's the biggest badass you ever played with, Troy?
Larry Allen.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep. Chris Canty said the same thing the other day. Chris Canty said that he went up against Larry Allen as a rookie, and the coaches stopped practice and said a rookie cannot go against Larry Allen.
Yeah. That was good thinking by the coaches. I'd say another one was my left tackle, Mark Tuinei, and he was very understated, but yeah, he was a tough guy, and I had a lot of those guys. Fortunately, it's why we were able to have the success we had.
Love that. Last thing we do something called one rep back, and normally it's a play that you wish you could just do over from your career. We'll also open it up if you wanted to broadcasting. We had your colleague Joe Buck on a couple months ago. He said he would love that Randy Moss call back, but if you have a take, you can take that back or a play. If you could take one thing back from your career, broadcasting or playing, what would it be, Troy?
Oh, gosh. I don't know that I would necessarily, it's not that I haven't said some really dumb things. I don't know that I would take anything back from my broadcasting career. I don't know. I guess it would be, we played in the 94 NFC Championship game, and in the first possession I threw a pick six to someone with the 49ers. I'd probably take that one back. Maybe that
What happened?
Maybe the outcome. They ran a little, they called it a trap defense, and they definitely trapped me. I got suckered in, but maybe the game would have been different. We got down 21-0 after that interception and some other turnovers, but maybe that would have been different. But I honestly, I don't look back and have many regrets. And that's a great question. It's the first time I've ever been asked that. But yeah, I guess it'd be that one.
Steve had one. Steve Young in another game against Cowboys said there was a procedural penalty they had, and if they had in one of those playoff games, and if that was different, he would have won. So maybe I think there's probably a whole genre of Niners Cowboys, just one play determining those games because they were such good teams.
Steve's one of my favorite people, and those were. I'm asked a lot whether, who was our biggest rival, and they expected me to say the Eagles or Washington or the Giants And for us, it really was the 49ers. I mean, those were great matchups, and there was a lot at stake for sure. But I would argue with Steve, though. I don't know if one procedural penalty was a game. I think we were going to win those games regardless.
All right, Troy Aikman, Monday Night Football in just a few days. I'm very excited to see it. Thanks so much for coming. This is football, man.
You bet. All the best, kid.